Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're taking a look at an old camera. It's the Fujifilm X20. Now, my fiance purchased this some years ago and has used it ever since. She loves this camera. It's a really nice little travel camera because it's really compact. It's got a built-in lens, so you can't add lenses to it. So it's not a compact system camera as such. It's basically a compact camera. It's got a 1/2 inch sensor. It's a CMOS sensor, 12 megapixel. That's fine if you're not worried about cropping. I mean, if you get the images right, you know, from the start, you don't have to worry about cropping them. Then a 12 megapixel sensor is fine. You can print easily up to 16:20. I'm going to go through some of the images that we've taken with this camera on the computer here. They'll also be uploaded to my Flickr page, so you can take a look at them on Flickr. And you decide yourself whether you think this, you know, is a nice little camera. Actually, the second-hand value of this camera has gone up in price quite considerably from when we purchased it. So it goes to show it is a sought-after camera. Now, it is a little bit quirky to use. You turn it on and off just by turning this ring here, and then that turns it on and off. So that's basically a zoom ring. It has a 28 to 112 mil focal range in full frame terms. That's the equivalent focal range. It isn't really that wide at the wide angle, but wide enough, I think, for most purposes. And 112 is a pretty decent telephoto end for zooming in, and it's sharp throughout the whole range, which you would expect from Fuji. Fuji do make great lenses and great cameras. Also, the colours are lovely, and as I say, I'll show you some on here that we took in Bath, and you can see how lovely the colours are. It's a bit quirky to use. It hasn't got a joystick for moving your focus point. There's no joystick there whatsoever. You basically have to hit the button on here and then move the focus point around like so, and then that will move a focus point depending on where you want the focus point. So it's a little bit slow and quirky from that point of view, and it isn't touchscreen, but it has got function buttons. You can pre-assign function buttons for adjusting your ISO, white balance, and various other main features. And it has got an optical viewfinder with a certain amount of information displayed in the viewfinder of your aperture value, shutter speed and what have you. And the viewfinder does adjust according to where you're zooming. So it is, you know, it's okay from that point of view. So you can frame your subject quite nicely with the viewfinder. On the wide setting with the viewfinder, if you're shooting wide, you do get a little bit of the lens in the shot. So yeah, it's quite, I mean, it's a rangefinder camera, so you know, it's quite quirky, but in a funny way, it's quite nice as well. I like the design of it. It's a lovely little design. It's really quite sexy, actually. It's really quite pleasant and quite very vintage looking. On the top, you've got your PASM dial, and you've got your exposure compensation dial on the top and the function button. And then on the back, you've got a fixed screen. It isn't tiltable. That to me, I find disappointing because I've got so used now to using cameras where if I'm taking low angle shots, I can just tilt the screen up. Like on my RX100, 7, even on my old Olympus XZ2, that's got a tilting screen. This one hasn't, but the images that come out of it are great, and I'm going to show you a few now. I would strongly suggest you take a look at them on my Flickr page. That'll give you a much better indication of what the photographs really are like. I'll leave a link in the description to my Flickr page so you can take a closer look at them there. But if we look at them here, and you'll see the sharpness, the colours, the contrast. It's just a beautiful little camera. And the colours, I mean, look at the sharpness of that. It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? And the fact it is only a 1/2 inch sensor as opposed to a 1-inch sensor or APS-C sensor. I think the clarity and sharpness is beautiful. You'll be able to print large prints with that. I've always been really impressed with Fuji colour science, and it looks very filmic as opposed to looking digital. They haven't over sharpened the images. It does take 14-bit RAW as well. These are all shot in RAW, so you've got a lot of flexibility there for adjusting, you know, highlights, your shadows, contrast, brightness, you know, so on and so forth. But as I say, you don't have a lot of flexibility for cropping because it is only a 12 megapixel camera. But you know, for landscapes and for most things, you're not going to want to worry about cropping anyway. But it's just for clarity that I really like, and I really like you know, the sharpness that comes out of it. If you look at some of these plants, the colours are just so vivid. They're just so nice, which is typical of Fuji colour science. So you know, if we look at how good the greens are, look at the colours here. Really, really nice colours, and as I say, and the sharpness is really nice. What I like about the sharpness, it's not a digital sharpness. It seems a very natural sharpness that comes off the sensor in this Fuji X20. And I can see why people are loving the Fuji X20. So it's a little bit quirky that you have to turn the zoom ring to be able to turn the camera on and off. That's quite nice in a sense, because when you're putting it in your pocket or you're putting it in your bag, just turn it and you know it's gone off. You haven't got to worry about accidentally knocking soft function buttons and finding that you've turned the camera back on when you've put it in the camera bag. So there are advantages to that. And I like the form factor. SD card goes in where the battery compartment is, so that's pretty traditional. That's the same as it is these days. It does take HD video. I've never shot any video on it, so I have no idea what the video quality is like. I only use it for stills. And my fiance only use it for taking stills. So yeah, great little compact camera, probably quite high in price. For it's about 400 odd pounds nowadays. I think if you're looking for a decent compact camera, that actually isn't a bad price to pay for a decent compact camera. And I think it really does compete with many other modern cameras, such as the Ricoh GR2, GR3. There are APS-C sensor cameras, so you can be able to do a lot better cropping with them. And they're 24 megapixel sensors, so twice the size of what this is. But I just like the colour science of this camera. I think they're just really nice. Colour science is lovely with this camera. I'd forgotten actually how lovely this camera is. And that's why I'm looking at it now, because I thought, well, you know, sometimes you don't need to buy the latest and the greatest. And I think this camera is living proof that you don't necessarily need to buy the latest and the greatest, because this is just great. Again, look at the colours. The whole contrast, that's a fairly contrasty scene with deep shadows and a lot of sunlight, and it handles it beautifully. It really does handle it beautifully. So yeah, if you are looking for a retro style camera, because it is retro style, there's no doubt about that. It looks very old fashioned, and I like the look of the old fashioned retro look, as long as it's functional. You have to get used to the way the autofocus works. It's quite different to the modern cameras, and get used to the fact there is no tilting screen. But then the Ricoh GR3 doesn't have a tilting screen. So once you got used to those, I say limitations, but you know, once you got used to those limitations, I will say limitations because I think they are limitations, but once you got used to them, yeah, lenses, beautiful lens, really, really nice quality lens. So there we go. That's the Fujifilm X20. Take a look at my photographs that will be up on my Flickr page. See what you think. Yeah, there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you found that video useful and entertaining. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you like the content of my videos. Would really, really appreciate that. It does help me grow the channel. Thanks very much. Cheers for now. Bye.